Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ian Woodgate, Managing Director of PointBeyond, and I'd like to welcome you to our afternoon webinar, which is Project Online, a better way to manage projects and programs. We're delighted today to be joined by Ben Howard, Project Server MVP. Before we start, I just want to mention a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so you will be sent a link to the recording afterwards. Also, we do have the questions panel down the side of your screen, so if you do have any questions, please do feel free to post your questions and we shall endeavour to answer them at the end. Ben will be doing the bulk of the presenting today, and we'll be aiming to talk for around 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll pick up the questions. So we're very excited actually to be talking about Project Online today. With many people, I see so many of the customers that I speak to, they're using projects perhaps in a very simple way, kind of project clients to manage their projects, or people even are managing projects in a very ad hoc way, perhaps using Excel or Word or Post-it notes or whatever, and looking for more effective ways to manage their projects and programs. And the conversation I have quite often is people have been put off in the past by the complexity of Project Server, and that can be from an implementation point of view, from the ongoing maintenance point of view of running perhaps quite complex infrastructure to run Project Server, and also from a cost perspective as well. And Project Online really has the potential to, or really does, remove a lot of those barriers. And we have several customers who are already successfully leveraging the kind of benefits that Project Server brings and using it, Project Online brings, and using it very successfully to deliver and manage their projects. And they've been able to implement Project Online far more quickly and at a much lower cost than a similar kind of Project Server implementation would have been. So before we hand over to Ben, let me just introduce myself and PointBeyond. So as I've already mentioned, I'm Ian Woodgate, Managing Director of PointBeyond. PointBeyond, where we specialize in delivering great business solutions using SharePoint. We're currently doing a lot of work with forms, workflow, business intelligence and reporting, for example. We're also doing a lot of work actually upgrading people to new versions of SharePoint at the moment, with SharePoint 2013 obviously being fairly recently out. And given that focus on SharePoint-based business solutions, Project Server, as some of you may be aware, it fits very naturally into that kind of mold, being a product that is completely integrated with and built on top of SharePoint 2013. And I'm sure we'll be seeing some familiar screens and views of SharePoint as we go through the demo today. So with that, I'd now like to hand over to Ben and let Ben say a few words to introduce himself.
Okay, thanks Ian, and hello everybody. So that's, just in case you were unsure, Ian on the left-hand side of your screen and me on the right-hand side. I should say, of course, for those of us in the UK, I think it's probably everybody, it is November, so normally I'm semi-clean shaven, but do go out and give a little bit to charity. Anyway, so I spend my life implementing project and project server solutions and have done for 10 or so plus more years actually, and consequently because of that I'm fairly well placed to talk around project server and Microsoft's new offering, which is Project Online. So let's talk about that and have a quick look at the agenda. So very simple agenda. We don't have a whole host of slides. We've done the introduction. We're really going to have a look at the benefits of Project Online and position it within the other products that you may have come across in the Microsoft suite for project management. We'll spend the majority of our time doing a demo. We will then wrap up and leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. So please do get those questions going via the questions area in your Citrix Online control panel there. If there are any interesting ones, and I'm sure there will be, Ian will pop up and he'll say, hang on Ben, we've got a great question here, or he'll interject with a question that or something that I've not made clear, because obviously as you go through this, and because I've done this for many years, there's bits that I take for granted which really I forget my customers and people who are new to this don't necessarily know and understand. So what is Project Online? Well, Ian in his introduction spoke about Project Server a little bit. Well, a project
quite aware,
server,
Ben. I did kind of muddy the waters a bit there by using the term project server instead of project online from time to time. So it's an easy confusion to make.
an easy confusion to make because effectively they are the same products. So Project Server 2013 and Project Online are the same solution. They're the same code base. They are the same exe from Microsoft. They're just marketed differently. So Project Server is your on-premise version that you would install on your own SharePoint farm or within your own SharePoint farm on your physical or virtual servers hosted in your data center, whereas Project Online is a subscription model that you buy from Microsoft, and it is part of the Office 365 suite. So we'll have a little look on that in a couple of slides' time. Project Online, in terms of the client for Project Online, is either Microsoft Project Professional 2013 or what's called Project Pro for Office 365. Again, they are the same products. Project Professional 2013 and Project Pro for Office 365 are the same code base. They are just sold to you and delivered differently. So Project Pro is what you'll get in your enterprise agreement or on volume licensing or select licensing, or even what you can go and buy as a box product down at, I don't know where you buy software from these days, Currys or PC World. Project Pro for Office 365, you pay on your subscription model to Microsoft. Importantly though, that third bullet point there, not all users need to have Project Pro or Project Professional. So my demo today, I will not touch Project. We will not see me using it. I will be using the web-based access to that solution, which is called Project Web App. So typically Microsoft's web apps. There is a Project Web App, and the last one we've covered off. So importantly, and I suspect looking at the audience and where you're from, you all know what Office 365 is, but as a bit of a recap, I think it was launched back in June 2011, probably as called differently at that stage, but it was part of the kind of business productivity services by Microsoft. This slide, I'm not quite sure how old this slide is, but it's relatively recent, as in the last 6 months, but we can see 88 countries and regions, 32 languages. So Office 365 is a cloud-based service that is providing services across the world. It's huge in terms of its revenue potential for Microsoft. In terms of its increase, it's one of the fastest growing solutions they have. On the back of that, they make sure that that fast growing solution is available to our customers 99.9% of the time, and they back that up with a financial guarantee. And obviously that's third party verified and audited in terms of the service that you can expect from Microsoft. I've been using Office 365 for probably 2 years on my Exchange side of things, and it's always fine. I've been using hosted Exchange solutions for the last 8 to 10 years, and again, that's always been fine. So robustness isn't an issue here. Industry standard, well, again, third-party verification for security, for data integrity, and that's obviously something that's come to the fore recently with Edward Snowden, etc. So I can't comment on that, but you can go onto the Microsoft Office 365 site and see the third-party verifications they have around data security, around ISO 9000 and all of the other solutions and badges and certificates, if you like, that Office 365 agrees to and adheres to. So if you are looking at this on behalf of a government organization or looking at it on behalf of a multinational organization, then data security obviously is key there, and that's where you want to look at that sort of fourth tile there to go and have a look at the industry standard specifications that Office 365 adheres to. Okay, so Now that we know about Office 365, let's just have a look at Microsoft Project Online Services. The reason I talk about Office 365 is that Project Online and Project Pro for Office 365 is a subscription service based upon Office 365. So that good foundation and that good work in building the infrastructure by Microsoft then allowed them to say, hey, we've got this project server environment. Let's look at putting the next version of that online. And that's what they did with Project Server 2013. They branded it Project Online in the same way we have SharePoint Online and we have Exchange Online. We now have Project brackets Server Online. So 3 services that you can see down there. The first one is Project Online. So that is our project server in the cloud. And target audience for that, team members, project participants, business decision makers, and I'll also add in project managers. Maybe not a project manager who's managing 50 lines in a plan, but maybe a project manager who's handling 30 or 40 lines. Project Pro for Office 365 is Microsoft Project Professional 2013 effectively, but it's you buy that as part of the subscription service. So these first two, let's get a pen up here. These first two are interdependent. So you could quite happily go and buy Project Pro for Office 365, spend your monthly cash with Microsoft, and utilize Microsoft Project Pro on your desktop as a Windows Intel application. So that's all good, and the primary audience for that, of course, is project managers and potentially resource managers as well. So that works fairly well. Works very well, of course. Now, if we look at this third area down here, we have Project Online with Project Pro for Office 365. It's effectively a combination of the first two. So we have Project Server in the cloud and Microsoft Project utilizing that service in the cloud. All we're going to look at today is this first one, Project Online. Okay, does that make sense to everybody in terms of clearing that up? Ian, I'm going to take you as a poll for this.
Yeah, I think that's fine, Ben. Thanks. I think, yeah, worth saying that, of course, if you do have Project Pro, that would integrate with your Project Online, or you may have Project 2013 that could also integrate with your Project Online, couldn't it? You can do it either
Correct.
way.
Yeah, correct. So I have Project Professional 2013 installed on my desktop, so that was a one-off purchase. And then I have a Project Online system that I'm going to show you today, which is Project Server in the cloud, and I can connect my Project Pro Professional 2013 to that Project Online system. It's just the only difference between Project Professional 2013 and Project Pro for Office 365 is how you buy it. The code base is the same. Okay. So what's the advantage of Project Online? Why did Microsoft spend all of this money putting this stuff out into various data centers around the world? Well, primarily, it's quick to set up and quick to work with. So if you're a project management office in an organization and you have a requirement to set up a tool set or to get a tool set up and running quickly that supports that project management functionality, one of the things you can do, of course, is you can go to IT and you say, hey, IT, we need a SharePoint farm, and once we've got that SharePoint farm, we'd like to install Project Pro, Project Server 2013 on there, we need SQL Server as well, da-da-da-da-da. And before you know it, often what happens is that 4 weeks have gone by and you've had to procure those licenses up front, and you've had to procure those servers up front, and you've had to go through the IT procurement cycle, and it's been a whole host of pain and aggravation. Now, that's the traditional way of working. I'm not saying that's wrong nor right, but now there is an alternative one. The alternative is you get onto Microsoft.com, Office 365, and you sign up to Project Online, and literally 20 minutes later, you've got a Project Online system up and working. You don't worry about backups because Microsoft worry about that. You don't worry about redundancy because you've got it at 99.9% of the time. And you don't worry about, well, what happens if I give this up in 3 months? Because you just stop your subscription. So it's quick to set up. It's also available on any device. And this is really a function of 2013, SharePoint 2013. So I'm going to log in initially using a Google browser, Google Chrome, but then I'll do the rest of the demo on Internet Explorer. But these applications and the SharePoint and project services, project online services, are available on any sort of device that you may want. So whether you're giving reports out to users on iPads, whether the majority of your users are designers and they're using Macintosh devices and therefore a Safari browser, whether you're using a typical Wintel device, so I'm running Windows 7 and Internet Explorer, it doesn't really matter. Project Online is there for you to use on any device, and certainly one of the customers that we're involved in as PointBeyond has a large population of Macintosh laptops and desktops that they use. So of course they're just accessing the system using Safari. And then of course anywhere, the solution I'm using, or my project online service, is hosted, I guess this looks like North America, it's hosted probably somewhere here in a data center, or somewhere here in a data center, or somewhere here. The point is I don't know and I don't necessarily care. In fact, both of those are true. Wherever I go I can access this system, so it's there available for me from wherever I happen to be in the globe. So that's a few things about Project Online. It's quick to set up. The solution is available from any device, anywhere. Okay, so let's go and have a look at a demo for this. We'll come out of here. We'll discard those annotations. We'll close that one down. And we'll open up Chrome. So I'll bring this over. So just so that you know there are no smoke and mirrors in here, I will log into Ben at applepark2013demo.onmicrosoft.com, and I will type in that password for that. Have a quick view of that. Does that look right? Yep.
Perhaps worth saying what
this is going to do.
So I was just going to say, while you log in, Ben, perhaps just mentioning as well is that you have a choice here. You can have Microsoft managed accounts, which you have here, but you can also federate with your own internal Active Directory if you want to and have seamless login. And with some customers who've done that, and that's really nice because people just seamlessly click through and they don't even know there's no separate login. It's using their AD login. They don't even know effectively that they're being put onto a cloud service.
Yeah, that's a valid point. This system is, as you saw from the login, it is a 2013 demo system, so I've not integrated that into our AD. I like to keep it separate because that provides us with those
yeah, and there are pros and cons to each.
Like. Say again, sorry?
Sorry, I was just saying, and yeah, and absolutely, and there are pros and cons to both approaches. I'm just saying that those are options really that people have.
Absolutely right. So just to show you, this is my Office 365 Admin Center, and then, so I've got my normal things that you'd expect with Office 365 in terms of the SkyDrive, newsfeed, the ability to create SharePoint sites as well, and obviously I get some current health of my Office 365 environment. I'm not going to go through any of these. The idea was just to show you that we can log in, we can create new users from here. I'm an administrator, so I have the right to do all of this stuff. I will click on download software though, just because in here then you have the abilities as the administrator to you might have an Office 365 environment that covers 200 employees in your organization, but you only want to give Project Pro for Office 365 to 10 of those, because obviously there's a subscription cost. So you can choose which 10 you want to give that to, and those users can come into here and they can click within here and say, oh, I'd like to download and install Project, and that will install Project Pro for Office 365 onto, it's up to 5 machines per user actually, so they can use it at home, they can use it on a couple of machines in an office. And you know, the idea is this will install very quickly using what's called click to run technology, which is ultimately part of the App V suite from Microsoft, and therefore you could go and install it on a kiosk in an airport lounge if you had to, or more likely on a colleague's computer, and then you can deinstall it from here as well. So when you go into this system, you can see where it's installed, and then you say, actually, I would like to remove that version from my colleague's PC. So you have complete manageability of where you install the Microsoft Project Pro solution. Okay, so that's good. I'm just going to log out of there. We'll sign out of there, and I'm going to go into Internet Explorer, and actually all I've done is would have clicked on the projects link there. So that projects link takes me into effectively my project server system. This is very much a vanilla system. I've done a very small amount of configuration to this, but when I say very small, literally, you know, less than an hour. I've done a couple of logo changes, and I've configured project server a little bit. But for those of you who aren't up to speed with project server or familiar with it, then this will be quite a good overview, and that's really what I want to give you during the next 20 to 30 minutes, is an overview of how this works. So when your users come to their project online system, the first experience they have is this experience with a set of tiles, and of course we can remove those tiles, add new tiles, but they're really there to help users get up to speed and running fairly quickly. The other thing we can do from here is change the look and feel. So up on the gear icon here, there's lots of things that we can do. So very much, you know, we'll go and change the look of our site. There's some standard templates there. Typically, we obviously would work with our customers and say, what are your logos? What are your coloring requirements from marketing? And then we would customize this SharePoint site, because that's effectively what it is, to look just like their normal, or adhere to their typical marketing requirements in terms of look and feel, etc. So that's all good. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create or import a project. So this is slightly different between 2013 and 2010 in terms of what we can do from the project server site, and it's because of the way that project server is architected and sits within a SharePoint site collection at this stage. So one thing we could do is we could just go and start a new project, as can be seen here, or I can import existing SharePoint sites into Project Web App. Now, why is this interesting? Well, this is interesting because we may work for an organization that already has SharePoint 2013 deployed, and they may use SharePoint 2013 in order to track and manage their projects at the moment, and that's a common thing. But when the PMO director comes on board, or somebody says, hey, we need to try and get a hold of all of these disparate projects that we have and bring them into one place, then this is where this add SharePoint sites to Project Web App really begins to come into its own, because what we're able to do is say, I'm going to take an existing SharePoint site that's got a project and got some tasks on there, and I'm going to add it into my current environment. So I'm going to go and effectively create a new SharePoint site so that we can do that. So we'll click on here, we'll click on Site Contents, and we'll go and create a SharePoint site from scratch. Now you can see most of the things that I'm dealing with in my fictitious company are all to do with skincare. So we'll just create a new skin rub. That can be some sort of skin rub cream. And I'll just call that skin rub. So if you're used to dealing with SharePoint and creating sites, this is how you do this. So we'll just click on Create. So again, this is working in some server farm somewhere in America. That's created me a new site. And so we would do our normal sorts of things in here where we would go and drag some documents to that site. So again, I don't want to demo SharePoint too much, but if I minimize this, I have got some documents sitting on a system. Let me just open this up. Sorry, I just pressed Windows D, which minimizes everything, so that I could grab these documents and grab these documents, which you can't see, but I'll drag them over to here and we'll just put them straight in here. Of SharePoint 2013, just being able to drag and drop those documents in, and of course as soon as they've come in, then you get all of the rich functionality around document management on these documents that you would expect. So just mousing over this dependency network and critical path, which is a PowerPoint.
I think we're still not seeing your screen, Ben.
Oh, you're not? What's happening here then? Show my screen. Sorry, it does say it's paused. There we go. How's that? Thanks, Ian.
That's better.
Sorry. When I minimize my screen then, that obviously paused everything.
No worries.
So what we can see at this stage is just this PowerPoint web app beginning to show the preview of this. That's all well and good, but let's just say I'm working on a deadline in here, so we can go and add a couple of items to the site, and that will add a task list into this site. We'll see that come up here. Let's just do that again. There we go. So that takes a couple of seconds because it does have to round trip between here and the US, and I'm going to go and add some things into that task list. So I'll say we'll call this task 1 because I'm not very smart with my naming. We'll give it a due date, so that could be due by the 20th of 12th, 13, and we can assign that to, let's just assign that. I've got some users on here. We'll assign that to my friend Craig. So we can do this, and then we can just begin to build up this task list, and we can see SharePoint put some nice things in around the timeline. One of the things SharePoint doesn't do, of course, is it's not a scheduling tool. So although it gives us a due date, it doesn't necessarily give us a start date. So I'm just going to change this view, and I'm going to add in the start date. So the start date we can just find down here. I'll put it at item 3. So I now done this. Apologies for running through this quickly, but for each task I now have a start date and a due date. So if I edit this task, then then if we're going to finish it by the 12th of December, then maybe we should start it by, that's a Thursday, the 9th. So people do this in SharePoint all the time. It can be quite tough to do it because it's a very manual process. But I've seen large task lists built this way. So we might have a few of those in our environment. Let's go back to projects. Maybe I want to begin to elevate that skin rub project into my PMO. I want to manage it centrally and put some controls around that. So if I click on this Create or Import Projects piece now, what you'll see is when I add an existing SharePoint site, then my skin rub site is here. So I'll just click Add. So those tasks and those documents and everything else will become part of my more global, my more structured project management office. So that will work. And if we click on the Project Center now, this is a list of all of my projects. Here's my skin rub project. Okay, I didn't have some of the data that I would normally grab around a project, such as budget, but if we were to click in there, we'd see there's one task, and we can see that's the same task that we created before. So that's all well and good. I can now manage this centrally and add some further information into it. However, so that's one scenario. The other scenario is that we will go and create projects when they're necessary, and we will create projects which belong to specific, what we would call enterprise project types, and I've got some here. So you can see that I've got some new product development projects. So I've got one specifically around creams, I've got one around gels, and I've got one around solutions. So again, in my skincare, healthcare world, this is the world that I exist. But you could think that you could have a Type A project, Type B project, Type C project, etc. Now what these do, we'll go and create a new cream project. What these do is they ask us for, when we create the project, some basic information around the project, and then it allows us to drill in and gather more information, such as who the customer or who the sponsor should be. So I will call this is a cream, so I'll call this a hand cream.
And can we configure what these fields are, Ben?
Completely. Okay, so this is a 250 ml hand cream, and this is when I say I spent an hour configuring this. This is pretty much what I've done. 250 ml hand cream, and I think I'm going to start this project, whatever this is, around, let's just say, the 9th of December. So we'll save that, and on the right hand side here you can see that that's doing some processing on the server, and once it's done that processing and created the basic plan for me, it's going to do a couple of other things. One is it's going to give me those other fields, those configurable fields that you've just mentioned in, and say, what do you want to fill in for these? So down here within the details we see we have a customer. So my customers are called customer A, customer B, customer C. So this is going to be customer C that we're running this project for. The budget might be, let's just say, £30,000. I'm not going to worry about, or $30,000, sorry, I'm not going to worry about project departments, but we could say that this is running in Department X or Department Y, and initially I'm going to have some subjective idea of risk, and I'll just say at the moment this is amber because it's, I don't know, 30 grand, and that's a lot for this organization. So we gather information around the project. The other thing that we're able to do with this is associate a specific schedule, we can associate a specific schedule or a specific template with this project. So when we create any project that's to do with creams, then we always follow a specific project schedule and use specific resources. So once I've saved this, I can click on the schedule view, and this is a plan that effectively I created in project, and again we've got some nice ragging in here. Now what I'm able to do at this stage is begin to change these phases, so a name. So perhaps phase 1, we wouldn't call that phase 1, we would call that a defined scope. So I can edit this stuff directly in the browser. Task 1 of defined scope might be speak to marketing. And I think that isn't going to take 1 day, that might take 5 days. Okay, so we can enter that data, and as you can see, the Gantt chart changes for me. So I have some rich functionality within Project Web Access or Project Web App. Notice I'm not using Microsoft Project here, I'm using the browser. So we have some rich functionality for creating and editing our schedules in here, including going and inserting some new tasks. So once we've spoken to marketing, maybe we need to define marketing plan. Okay, and that might take us 2 days. And then we can do all of the rich things that you would expect within projects, so we can highlight both of those, and we can link those 2 tasks together. And the shortcut keys that we have in project are here for us as well. So if I'm used to just pressing Control F2, then I can do the same within the browser. So that begins to link those tasks together, and of course I can then complete my network diagram and link everything up. And maybe I want to remove this link here, which we could do at a later stage. So that all works exceedingly well and is available just in the browser. We may define that our defined marketing plan, we want to add that up to the timeline as well, because that's an important task for us. So I can highlight it here and I can put it in this timeline view at the top by clicking Add to Timeline. Okay, so now we can see where we're doing our marketing plan, and of course this is then a great communications tool as well. What else do we have here? Well, we have some resources on our plan, and at the moment our resources are either product manager or project manager. Well, it's probably going to be the product manager that's going to define the marketing plan. So we can create some resource workload for these types of generic resources, but ultimately we might want real people to do these tasks. So I'm just going to save this. I kind of build my plan up in the browser here, as you can see, and I don't mind whether we'll use Safari, Chrome, Firefox or Internet Explorer or any other browser. I've lost count of, I only know 4, so I can't think of any more at this time. Once we've saved that, we might want to put some real people on here. So let's go up to the project and build the project team. So what build team allows me to do is define who my real resources are going to be that are going to work on that project. So this of course is optional because you don't need to put resources on projects, and many organizations don't. But if I look at my product manager and I check that, then on the left hand side here I've got the list of resources that are available in my organization. So we've got Ben Howard, we've got Craig Walker, we've got Scott Rogers, and you would typically see anywhere between 10 and several hundred or several thousand resources on this list on the left hand side. So what I want to do is I want to match the product manager skills with people in my organization. So I can click this match button, and Project Online goes away and it says, okay, who's got the product manager skills? Ah, well, Ben Howard has. So we can check Ben Howard and we can replace the product manager with Ben Howard by clicking on the replace button. And then once we save and close this, then you'll see that Ben Howard has that new task called Define Marketing Scope and Define Marketing Plan, etc. And I actually have the work as Ben Howard associated with me. So for a Define Marketing Plan, I've now got 16 hours worth of work on that task. So that's all useful, it's all great stuff, and it's all standard project server information. So once I'm happy with this plan, I would go and submit a baseline, because that's a useful thing to do. This is new in 2013. You couldn't save a baseline in 2010 via the web, and I get a little prompt or a little message on the right hand side there to say baseline saved successfully. And then once I've done that, I can go and publish the project. So publishing makes it available, makes my latest updates available in the main project site. So once that's saved, I'll close out of here. I'll check the project in. So the same sort of paradigm around document management within SharePoint. We have that paradigm in Project Online as well. So it's telling me that the workflow's going, it's checking this project in. And once we're done, then we're presented back into the project center, and I can see my new project here called Hand Cream. I gave it an amber risk, if you like, so that's coming up here, and I've got a budget. So other things that we can easily do for this now is we may want to group our projects in a certain way. Remember I had that those fields such as customer and budget, and I might have brand, etc. So let's just choose the customer one. We can see now that our projects are grouped by customer. So for customer C, we're doing our hand cream project, and our total value of the budget for customer C equates to £30,000 stroke dollars. I've got a little bit of an issue here which I didn't have time to resolve in my 1 hour really looking at this. But that would summarize all of the costs or all of the budgets for that customer. So if you were the salesperson responsible for looking after that customer, or the account manager, then you could see the size of the scope of the projects and the number of projects that we have on for that customer. That's quite useful. For each customer, again, within Project Server, then we've got a couple of things that we can do. We can utilize all of the good document storage and risk and issue management for a particular project, because as we run a project, we're not just concerned with this information here, which is the project schedule. Actually, we're concerned with project documents and risks and issues. So for each project, I end up with a specific SharePoint site. You can see it here. So this is my hand cream SharePoint site, and it's on this site that I would store the documents that are relevant to the hand cream project. Okay, but it's not just about documents, it's about risks and issues. So if I create a new risk and associate it with this project, I can store all of my risks for this project in my SharePoint site. So this risk will be the emollient, and I should find words that I can spell, is too rich. Now, I'm no chemical engineer, so I don't know what that means, but it sounds good to me. I will own this. So again, we'll pick that up, and Craig, my friend Craig, will go and work on it. And we have different categories of risks and different statuses, but I'll say the probability of this is probably going to be 50%. The impact could be 5, and the cost for fixing that might be 3,000. And we can type in a description and a mitigation plan, etc. So instead of having a risk register that exists on a Excel sheet and an issue register that sits on an Excel sheet, then I can store all of those items instead in a SharePoint task list, and that enables me to get an overview of the risks for that project without having to go to the Excel file, which is good because the Excel file might actually sit on somebody's desktop, but it also means that as a team member, I don't really need to know where that Excel file exists. I just need to know that I come to the risks area within the hand cream SharePoint site, and I can easily get at the hand cream site by going from my project web app homepage, because I got to it ultimately from here. The other thing that's then useful for is when we look at reports, because when we look at reports, we're now able to get risks across all of our projects and issues across all of our projects, okay? Or issues that are associated with projects that we're running for customer C. So it does give us a huge amount of value by storing these items in a SharePoint site that's associated with the project, because as Ian mentioned before, one of the things that we're good at PointBeyond is business intelligence. So we can grab this data out and we can put it into one or more reports for people, either via Excel services or Visio services or SQL Server reporting services, etc., etc. We've got plenty of options there.
You can imagine with that scenario as well, Ben, doing a kind of show me all the high likelihood, high impact risks across all of my projects, maybe for a management team or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely right, and that's exactly the sort of report that you know is bread and butter for us in terms of what we produce. Okay, so one of the last things that I want to talk about then is resources. We did put resources on our plan. We had Ben and Scott, and actually we had project manager. We didn't have Scott. Product manager, project manager, and Ben. So I want to go and have a look at a graph of these resources and see what they're up to. We can easily do that by highlighting the resources and clicking on the resource availability button, as I just did. What that does is it takes each resource, has a look across all of the projects at the work that each resource has, and has a look at their availability based upon a standard calendar. And then it takes all of that data and draws us a pretty graph. So we can see for this resource, Ben Howard, that I have I'm assigned to a project called Hand Cream, and I have some work starting the 9th of 12/2013, and then also on the 16th of the 12th, 2013, and then also on the 23rd of the 12th, 2013. And it plots that data up here. If I minimize, if I uncheck those, you can see that this is the work that Ben Howard has for those weeks. So that's quite useful. We can drill into that in a different time period. So if we're looking at what people perhaps are doing and we're monitoring people or tracking their work or assigning their work on a daily basis, then we would choose days. If we're looking ahead at what people have got for the next 3 or 4 months, we would probably choose months, etc. So that's quite useful. And we can also spin that one round as well. So instead of having a look at assignment work by resource, if I'm trying to work out who's got availability, then I can have a look at this remaining availability view, and I can see that pretty much everybody's got availability except my project manager doesn't have much here and has none here. What's nice about this view is that it will come below the line here. So if somebody's below the 0 line, it means that actually you've given them more work than they have availability to achieve within that period. So this remaining availability view is very useful as well. Obviously, we've also got the view options here where we can decide upon what window we want to look at within the system. Okay, so then to add to that, we've got projects, we've assigned resources to tasks in those projects. We can see that resource usage. The last bit which you may well want to do is get your resources to see what work they've got coming up for them. So I'm logged in as Ben Howard here, as can be seen across the top, and we now have the opportunity as a team member to see what has been assigned to me. I'll just change this slightly to fit the resolution, and when I'm expected to do that task. So we can see I've got this speak to marketing task that's due to start on the 9th and then finish on the 13th. I've got 40 hours remaining work for it. So we have the opportunity to, if we want, and this is optional, gather this data in from our resources. So as a resource, I could scroll over to that period of the 9th of the 12th, 2013, and we'll do that by clicking on Next, and that will change the dates over here. So I could ultimately fill this data in and say, okay, when are you planning to do that task, Ben? Oh, don't do that to me. F5. I think this is an issue with, I'm afraid to say it's just a little glitch, either with IE9 or IE10 that I occasionally see. Okay, I'm not going to scroll through to there because I don't want to, I've been put back onto this week again. But we could scroll through to there and start to say, okay, how much of that work did we do? We could even fill it in at a time-phased view here, or just say, you know, we're 100% complete on that task, and ultimately send that information back to the project manager by clicking here and saying, send the status of that task or all tasks. That goes to the project manager, and that project manager now knows that that task has been completed, and that will be marked as completed within the project once the project manager accepts it, and we will therefore get a black line, a percentage completion coming through on the line here. Does that make sense?
That's very good, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the last bit then that we'll look at is just a little bit on the reporting. I'm going to talk more around the reporting rather than show you anything too sexy, because again, this is vanilla out of the box. If we look at our US reports, English United States, why do I have all of these languages on here? Well, that's because Office 365 supports all of these languages. Obviously, you would get rid of some of them and you would create your own shortcuts within the area. So I'm exposing some of this data via Excel Web Services. So I have a project overview dashboard, and if we open that up, you'll see it says loading up in Excel Web App. So this gives me different cuts and different views of the data. Again, this is different to 2010 on-prem, And this is also where it differs slightly between Project Online and Project on-prem. So Project Server on-prem, obviously, you have different ways of accessing this data via either SSRS directly or via a query directly against the database. Because this is hosted, our database is hosted somewhere in a data center by Microsoft, they have a different way of accessing that, and that's called OData. But what we have to do ultimately is we need to create our reports in Excel. So Excel becomes my report creation tool, and we can see that this Excel is opening up slowly. Here's my project overview dashboard. We'll maximize this up. We'll edit this, and then we'll go and refresh the data. And you can, this is really just a pivot table, and what we're looking at here is data within our pivot table, but we're looking at it in a Power View and Power Pivot way. The nice thing about that is it's rendered as HTML5. So this data, when it's then rendered, is available within HTML5 on an iPad, on an Android device, within Internet Explorer, basically within any modern device or modern browser that supports HTML5. Now HTML5 is still a bit of an emerging standard, I think, but that's the way the world is going and how we're going. So we can see within Project that I can, within Excel I can drill into various pieces of information and view the data for that info or for that project. So if I want to have a look at my hand cream data, then we will be able to go in and see the assignment work, the assignment actual work by the hand cream project effectively. So your reporting paradigm is different in Project Online. It's done by creating the reports in Excel, but then viewing them within this sort of view Project Web App. Within Excel Web App as a HTML5 document. So that's the reporting paradigm, and again that's built within and on top of the SharePoint paradigm. Okay, so pretty much that's all I wanted to cover for this session. We have about 8 minutes. So Ian, do we have any questions that have come through?
We have several questions actually, Ben. So should we just move on to those?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's whiz through them then. So the first question is, what happens when a new version of the project client or Microsoft Project Server is released?
Okay. If you're on subscription, it's the same as the SharePoint world. Microsoft will just update you automatically from Project Online, the old version, to the new version, which will be called Project Online. And that's why they haven't put a version name in there, because their view is that we will just provide you a service, and you'll buy that service, and you as a user won't necessarily know that we're going to upgrade you, although typically what happened to me with the SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013 world through my SharePoint Online system is that I got some emails and had some, not quite discussions, but they told me they were going to do the upgrade over the next week and that I might suffer downtime for a couple of hours. So as a user, you don't need to do anything. You just carry on paying your subscription and everything works nicely. Similarly, if you've bought Project Pro for Office 365, remember, all of that is downloaded automatically for you, and any updates are downloaded automatically for you. So the next update will just be downloaded automatically for you. So it's a seamless experience.
Thanks, Ben. The next question is, would the create or import projects option work with an existing MPP file? If so, will MS Project 2010 files work?
So will it work with an existing MSP file? Yes. So there's no file compatibility issues between Project 2010 and Project 2013. However, in order to import it, you must have Project Professional 2013 on your desktop. So the way you do this is you go and grab Project Professional 2013, you open your 2010 plan in there, and then you effectively you save it to your Project Online system.
Sure, that sounds good. Thanks, Ben. Next question, I'm not sure that I quite understand the question, but it's I guess the MPP would form a schedule. So I'm guessing if you're importing a project, would it form a schedule? I guess it would just create a new project, really.
Yes. Yeah, that is your project plan in terms of Microsoft Project Plan and Project Schedule, two interchangeable pieces of terminology. So when you save that, it is a schedule, and you have the opportunity either to edit that schedule in Project Professional or Project Pro for Office 365 or PWA for Web.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ben. The next question, we have two more to go, is do you recommend using the project client, or do people tend to do everything through the browser?
That's a great question. It depends upon what rich functionality you need. So the project client is richer than the web. So if I've got anything more than 50 or 60 tasks, I would probably open up the project client because it gives me richer functionality. However, the project client is much more expensive than just the browser. So often with customers, we look at what roles you have and what your project management capabilities are in order to begin to determine which client is going to be best suited for you.
Excellent. So the answer, if I summarize them, Ben, is it depends really on the complexity of what you're trying to do.
It depends. That's a great consultant answer.
Consultant's answer. Rephrase the question. The last question we've got is, can I import SharePoint sites from other site collections?
I think the answer to that is no.
Okay. That would seem to be a bit of a limitation, I would imagine. Because if you've got your existing SharePoint sites set up to manage projects, they may well be in separate site collections to where you install PWA.
Yeah, so we would have to look at some sort of migration tool to migrate that site from one site collection to another.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's loads of migration tools that would do that.
There are. Okay, no, that's great, Ben.
Cool.
So,
that's the end of the questions.
That's the end of the questions. Do you want to just put the last slide up, and we can put our contact details? Oh, yes, almost forgot. Should mention quickly that
more exciting than anything else.
The sole reason for attending today is that Ben very kindly is donating a free copy of his book, Project 2013 Plain and Simple, and we will be putting all attendees into a draw for that book later on. And the lucky person will be contacted shortly.
And they'll only have to pay the postage, won't they?
I think we can stretch that. So just remains for me to thank Ben very much for attending today, for demonstrating the project server, Project Online today. Also to say if what you seen today has been of interest and you're interested in having a free trial, we can very easily set that up for yourself. So please do get in touch with us and we'd be very happy to set that up. So I think, unless Ben, you have anything else to add? Oh, we should probably add the warning symbol here. Ben, would you like to cover that off?
Yeah, Project Online. It can be from very easy to very complex, depending what you want to do. And therefore, what I would say is go and find a partner. You know, and obviously you're attending a PointBeyond, the Microsoft Gold Partners demo today with somebody who's a project MVP. So our caveat, of course, is go and find somebody who's done this before rather than trying to do it yourself, because it's like most things, if you try and do it yourself without some support, you'll probably bruise yourself and hurt yourself. And
I guess the risk is Project Online actually makes that a lot easier because, hey, I can just go to site and type in my credit card details and kind of off I go.
Yeah, but it's the usual thing. You need to put some thinking in there in order to determine what the best outputs are going to be. So if you need a report in a certain way, you have to structure the data that you input in a certain way. And that's really where a lot of the consultancy comes in to this. How do you want your reports, and therefore how should we structure the data?
Absolutely. So very good points there, Ben. And I think, yes, just because it's easy to get started, you're still dealing with full project server at the end of the day. It's a complicated solution. It's easy to make mistakes. Don't underestimate the complexity of what you're trying to do.
Indeed. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for attending. I do hope you found the session useful today. We will be sending out recording, as I've mentioned previously. So once again, thank you very much to Ben for presenting today, and we look forward to doing another webinar shortly. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks Ben.